I'm so fed up of hearing about the EU referendum already, and it's only been a couple of weeks. I just can't be bothered with it. Like politics in general at the moment, it's completely lost my interests. They're all the same. They're all pointless, useless arseholes. They're not working for me and you, they're working for big business and banks. It became obvious, almost from the first day of Cameron's renegotiation with the EU, that Cameron, one, isn't going to get anything renegotiated of substance, but will exaggerate the tiny little bits that he does manage to get for us to make the case to stay in. And two, Cameron has always wanted to stay in the EU. He's been told to stay in the EU. Cameron has never wanted to leave the EU because the globalists, who are Cameron's bosses, they want to control the UK, which is a doddle if we're just one of 28 other states in the European Union, but not so easy if we're a standalone state. Cameron has, just for a change, been lying to the general public about what he is fighting for when it comes to renegotiation. He said before he was elected, remember that? Cameron and the Conservatives were elected just over a month ago with a full majority. Good God, what were we thinking? We've only got ourselves to blame. Anyway, before he was elected, Cameron said he would renegotiate with the EU, then decide if he was going to back the in or the out campaign, depending on what was achieved via the negotiations. Well, today we have this article in the Telegraph. 50 Conservative MPs to challenge David Cameron over rigged EU referendum rules. David Cameron is facing his first bloody nose in the House of Commons just 5 weeks after the general election, and with as many as 50 Conservative MPs set to try to force changes to the rules of the European Union referendum. The Prime Minister is hoping that the potential Tory rebels, which include former Tory cabinet ministers Liam Fox and Owen Paterson, can be bought off with some credible assurances ahead of Tuesday's crunch vote on backbench amendments to the EU referendum bill. Did you hear that? Bought off. That's the way politics works. Everybody somehow gets bought off. And what are these amendments that the 50 backbenchers are after? Well, how dare they? But they want to ensure that the referendum is fair to both sides. Because Cameron doesn't. Cameron wants to stay in. He will campaign for an in campaign. He will do all he can to have the propaganda such that every day we are spewed that, oh, if we leave the EU, that's it, the end of the world, 3 million jobs. It's all bullshit and Cameron knows it, but that's what he's being told to do. That's why he's been lying to us from the word go. He's never going to renegotiate anything. He wants in, he's told to keep us in the EU. David Cameron is a snake. Not a David Icke snake, although he might be. He's a real dirty snake. A real shifty piece of scum. So not only was he lying to us when he said he would wait and see what side he was going to support, he was going to back the in campaign all along, regardless. He's also lying to the British people by saying that he can get treaty change for this and for that, in full knowledge that he simply doesn't have a cat in hell's chance of ever getting a treaty change to improve Britain's relationship with the EU. He wants the referendum to be biased towards the in campaign with propaganda that Joseph Goebbels would have been proud of. Red alert! Red alert! We have a treasonous scumbag in Downing Street who wants to forever sell our country out. He's making sure that his corporation bosses, his banker bosses, get what they want. Red alert! Red fucking alert! This man must be removed by any means possible. He's not exactly a tough guy. Look how girly he looks when somebody bumped into him on the street. This is a joke. If people don't know just what is going on by now, then we genuinely haven't got a chance. The only way we're going to cause true change now is in two ways, and only two ways, I'm afraid. Firstly, we storm Downing Street. Huge, massive, humongous, public civil disobedience centred around London. The ballot box doesn't work. Talking to your MPs, petitions, Facebook posts, tweets, video blogs, everything. It doesn't work. JFK said those that make peaceful revolution impossible make violent revolution inevitable. Paraphrasing that, but it was something like that. The second option we have is what Spain and Greece has done. We need a brand spanking, gleaming, shining new anti-austerity political party to be started from the grassroots and soon. Very, very soon. If we make it to the 2012 election, I think this will be our last chance for decades for us to make any sort of real change in this country before we literally are swallowed up by a police state, big corporations and banks. Even more so than what we are now. That's it. Those are the only options. We've been so lazy for so long that it's down to this now. We've left politics to other people. We left it to MPs, narcissistic, money-grabbing, trough-snorting, six-job MPs. And now we're reaping the rewards of what we've sown. Did you see that David Cameron at the G7 meeting last week or so, however long ago it was going to put corruption on the agenda? I mean, Jesus Christ. London, the city of London, the banking square mile is the most corrupt square mile on planet Earth. There is more corruption that goes on there than anywhere else on the planet, without a shadow of a doubt. And he wants to point the finger everywhere else? Jesus, Cameron, you've got some front. I mean, look at George Osborne, who's been canoodling with 3 HSBC bosses, amongst other corrupt corporate leaders at Bilderberg this weekend, despite HSBC being one of the most corrupt companies on the planet. Osborne should be having them arrested, not spending a cosy weekend cuddling up to them. I'm sick to death of corporations getting away with murder, literally murder. But we make it happen. HSBC customers should have voted with their money and closed down their accounts the first time they were caught laundering drug money and supporting terrorists. What won't you put up with, HSBC customers? By not closing your accounts, you're aiding terrorists. The corporations, the banks, that's why we went into Iraq. That's why we went into Afghanistan, not because of 9/11. If you still believe the official version of the events about 9/11, then you're a blind fool whose mind has been lost, probably forever. This is why they want to monitor everything we do, because they're shit scared that we'll find out what they're doing. They want to call us terrorists before we expose them for being the terrorists, for funding, supporting and arming the terrorists, like we did in Libya when we overthrew Gaddafi. We funded, supported, trained with and worked with Al-Qaeda, our supposed enemy, in Libya to get Gaddafi. They don't want us to find this out. I'm sick to death of where we are. I'm sick to death of where we're going. Why aren't we coming together? Why aren't we joining forces? Why? Why? All it would take to stop this is for us to come together. Or are we not interested in a future for our kids? Do we simply not care enough? It's not rocket science. The only way they get away with it is because we allow them to. Stop it. Stop being a chump. Why don't we come together, I don't know, and crowdfund a fast food chain like McDonald's, but a healthier fast food chain, with no GMOs, with no rubber mat ingredients in their food, with no silicone in their food. It might cost you £1 more, but what do you want? The world run of, for and by the likes of McDonald's, where robots replace us and we're living on the streets? Or do you want your family to actually have a future? If we did this, then McDonald's would crumble in a few years. We could then do the same for Coke and Pepsi. We could start a new company platform to remove Windows. We could make mobile phones that don't squirrel away everything you say and do to the government. Could you imagine a global brand from the bottom up that supports people with its profits? Not a social enterprise, I'm talking way beyond that. I'm talking a social experiment, something global that's built within capitalism, but for the people and not just a few shareholders. Something never before achieved. Would this work? It could. But is it too much trouble for everyone? Is it so much easier to let McDonald's destroy your insides and let robots take your job so you're sleeping rough? But I guess you'll be okay because all your family and friends will be there with you.